Hello and welcome to Dataset, a channel for intelligent and curious people like you who are searching for human sexuality in the age of artificial intelligence. And in this channel, we usually talk about, or rather, try to find a best possible solution of a problem. And sometimes, or in other words, we try to find the best possible answer to a question. And today's question is, what is unsupervised learning? And in my previous video, I talked about supervised learning and how humanoid robot partner understands the context by supervised learning. Okay, by reading the label. I mean, if you ask your humanoid robot partner, can you pass the salt? It reads the label dining table and just understand the context. But in unsupervised learning, there is no label, so therefore it is more daunting task. It is more challenging. Okay, but this approach, that means this unsupervised learning or this technique called unsupervised learning, the robot is not given any labeled samples, as I just said. Now, instead, it is given a dataset of unlabeled text and must learn to infer the context on its own. Again, I repeat, it must infer the context on its own. This is a more challenging and more daunting task. But before we proceed, let me tell you one thing. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. And if you have already subscribed, tons of thanks, because it gives me a lot of strength. And I hope in the future I'll give more support from you. Keep watching Wooden Sled. And finally, although I talk about humanoid robots, sometimes human sexuality and sex robots, but there is no vulgarity in this channel, and I don't promote any kind of vulgarity through this channel. Now come back to the context and the our humanoid robot partners experience. Okay, one way to implement how now the question is, how will we implement this unsupervised learning? Okay, one way to implement unsupervised learning is to use a technique called word embedding. Okay, I'll talk about more about word embedding later, and I will also talk about the vectors in particular, because these two concepts are very important to understand how things going on in unsupervised learning, because both are very important to understand unsupervised learning. Word embedding is a technique that maps words to vectors to a high dimensional space. Now, what is high dimensional space? Okay, high dimensional space means a dimension that, of course, more than two or three or something like that, right? The vectors are trained in such a way that words that are similar in meaning have similar vectors. This allows the robot to learn the mapping or the meaning of the words by looking at the vectors of the words. That means each word has some vectors, and it looks at the closest vectors around it. Okay, once a robot has learned word embeddings, it can be used to infer the context of a piece of text by looking at the vectors of the words in the text. For example, if the robot sees the text, "Can you please pass the salt?" it can look at the vectors of the words pass and salt and infer that the context is here dining table. I hope it makes sense. But of course, this is we are not finished yet, because we will talk about more about unsupervised learning in a more simple way, so that you can understand your robot partner in a more close. You can have a more close look about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, because there are some other techniques also to understand the context. And in any kind of physical activities, including any kind of physically intimate acts, context is very important. So therefore, thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. I hope you will keep watching Wooden Sled, supporting Wooden Sled, and meet you in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Take care and stay safe.